culture. And then I was like, you know what, maybe I just do need something different. Maybe I do need to go out here. And had an amazing junior year of college. My coaches had recommended that I move in with 3 young women on my volleyball team that I thought, and played the entire time, did great that season. And it wasn't until about 2 months into when I got there my junior year was when I went and got hibachi from a food truck with some of my teammates and 2 men's basketball players. And we were sitting in my car waiting for our food, and me and my roommate Brooke were just talking about some random stuff, and our 2 men's basketball players' friends were in my back seat. And I overhear them start to talk about how, referring to Blair, who was the man on my volleyball team, as a dude and a bro, and those types of things. And I turn around and I was like, what are y'all talking about? What's going on? And that's when they tell me, you don't know Blair's a man? Like, you're living with a dude. You don't know that? And I was like, what? And I look at Brooke, who's my teammate, and I was like, did you know? You knew about this? Like, am I new? What's going on? And Brooke was like, it's kind of something people find out through the grapevine. Nothing's ever been confirmed. We don't really know anything. No one talks about it. Like, this isn't something we obviously talk about. Like, this is just hearsay at this point. Oh my gosh, I mean, I'm sure you can imagine my mind was all over the place. I didn't know how to handle this, what's going on. I mean, I was raised in a very Christian household. From the small town in Texas, this isn't something I've ever had to experience. I'm never taught to second guess who someone is when I'm introduced to them. So I go home, I don't tell anyone. I genuinely don't think I processed the fact that Blair was a man. I mean, for 2-3 months now, this is someone that I assumed was a woman. This is someone that I was living with, that I was right next to in the locker room every single day changing. And on travel trips I found out later on, personally requested by Blair to be roomed with all the time. And so it was just those mix of emotions, like where do I go from here? What do you do when you get this information? Ooh, sorry. And I just remember feeling like, especially when it came to my safe spaces, I had the choice and the opportunity to show who I want, what I want, when I want, taken away from me at this point. I mean, I felt violated. I genuinely did not know where to go from here. Well, then the day before my junior year season, Blair gets injured and was out the entire season. And so I think that was part of why I felt like I could push that to the back of my brain and didn't have to deal with it at the time. I could still play a normal season. There was no man on the court. I was still having to struggle with living with a man and doing all these things, but never genuinely processed it. And that's something not a lot of people can understand, is you were there for 2 years, and you found out 3 months in, why didn't you do anything then? And it's almost like you can't sit someone down and explain to them how to process this information. This is something that, in a way, you're being lied to and manipulated into thinking that this person is who they say they are. And that's so prevalent in today's reality. I mean, we're sending our kids to all of these places. You never know where they're safe to be nowadays, even schools, especially. And so the last 2 games of our season, Blair comes back, recovered, and plays. And that's when the first article came out with a Utah State mom exposing the fact that there was a man on the San Jose State women's volleyball team. And that's when the next day we get called into a coaches meeting with compliance and media personnel. And our whole team, obviously this entire time, it's not something we've talked about, but everyone knows. It's just kind of like the elephant in the room. Everyone knows this is going on, but no one's talking about it. I mean, that's forbidden basically at this point. And we're like, okay, this is when we're gonna get answers. Like, the coaches know, the compliance knows, the school knows. We didn't even know at the time if the school knew that there was a man on the team. I mean, no one knew anything. And so we were like, okay, kind of a weight lifted a little bit. We're gonna get answers. They're gonna tell us where we're going from here. Like, Blair's getting kicked off the team, right? Like, obviously that's the first thing we're thinking. Like, okay, obviously this is out now. Everyone knows. And it's not okay. Blair's gone. I mean, that was just the first thought that came to my mind. So we go into this meeting before practice, and we sit down, and there's this media lady, Michelle. And she tells us about the article. Obviously, we all already know about it. She says, it hasn't hit any major media sources. So there's no need to talk about this with anyone. There's no need to tell, honestly, your family or your friends about it. It's not that deep. We've passed all the regulations and the rules. It's okay. We're doing all the right things. There's nothing illegal going on here. So you have no right to talk about it. And I remember her specifically saying, if media comes up to you and asks for a comment, that's not your story to tell. And believe me, I've voice recorded all of these meetings. And verbatim, that is not your story to tell. And I remember one of my teammates raised her hand, and she was like, well, we're going through this too. What about us talking about how we feel, or what's going on with that? And Michelle goes, again, you are not allowed to affirm Blair's gender identity. That is Blair's story to tell. And you are breaking laws and rules and could get your scholarship taken away if you choose to do so. Wow. And that was the first ever meeting we had. Out of maybe 30 plus meetings we'd had in the next 4 months. And that was when we all left the room and we were like, what is going on? So these people that we're told to trust and our families are sending us to, and we put our lives in their hands. They control our entire lives. We sign our lives away when we come here. Are telling us to go against majority of our team, except one, morals we were born and raised by and believe. And then they're like, okay, meeting done. It was maybe a 10-minute meeting. Go to practice now for 3 hours and then go lift. With Blair, nothing's wrong. Nothing's happening. We're handling it. It's fine. So we go on. We go out to practice. Our coaches act like nothing's going on. And then 2 weeks later, we all go home for summer. Well, me and Brooke, there was 2 Brookes on the team, get selected to go to an all-star team and play in Europe for 2 weeks that summer. And they take 12 girls from the conference that are selected to go play in Europe. And these are girls we've never really met. I mean, it's a small world. We know of them, but we don't really know them that well. And we land and we get there and we're in the bus all together and it's silent. We're kind of, no one really knows each other yet. The first thing, I don't even know some of these girls' names yet. The first thing, a girl from Wyoming turns around and looks at me. And she goes, can we ask about it? And then obviously the whole team starts talking about it for the next 2-hour drive to where we were staying in Croatia. And that's when the conversation started, those 2 weeks we were there, with all of these girls from every team in the conference, the best players from every team in the conference, saying, ever since that first article came out, there's already talk that I'm not playing against you. Whether my team does or not, I don't know, but I will not play against you. Me and my parents have already talked about it. I'm walking out of the gym, which obviously I fully supported. So we go back, we get to school, our team had already been training, and I request a meeting with my head coach. And at this time, we'd never really heard much from him. It was just the school. So I still, in my head, could trust him a little bit. And I go to him with my teammate, and I was like, hey, we'd heard this talk in Europe about forfeits and all of that. We're not really sure what's going on there. How are we going to handle that? And he was like, okay, we'll reach out to the other schools, like ADs and coaches, and see what's really going on there. Like, we got that. We'll talk about that, and I'll let you know what they say. And that was the first time I'd asked him. I was like, okay, well, when does it get to the point where we take the one person that's causing all these issues out of the situation, and then we could just play? Like, if this team says they're going to forfeit, we can just tell them Blair's not coming, we'll play. Oh my gosh, he cursed me out. Oh. And so that was when I really realized, like, I can't trust anyone here. I don't have a place to speak about it. I can't speak about it according to what they're saying. And at this point, I have no knowledge of the real legal rules that I am allowed to speak and say how I feel to who I want. And so me and my other teammate leave that room, and we were just like, okay, I don't really know where to go from here. And then it's just meetings after meetings, just gaslighting and manipulation, telling you that you can't speak out and that if you do, your scholarship's gonna get pulled. And for a lot of these girls, this is how you get to go through school. I don't come from a family that can just pay for school. They've already paid the thousands and thousands of dollars of club fees for volleyball. So I can't just walk away and get rid of this scholarship. So I'm still at the point where I'm like, I can't say anything. I mean, they're telling me if I speak up, if I even talk to my family about this, I could get kicked out and have to move back home and never get a degree. I was terrified. But yet I'm still walking in every single day, going against every bone in my body, knowing that this is so wrong. And still living with this person. But if I say anything about it, I'm going home and I don't know what's gonna happen from there. And I'm losing the sport that I played since I was 7 years old and sacrificed everything to get to this point. And so we get to away tournaments, and then they start assigning DEI representatives and security officers and all of these different compliance personnel to travel with us because we expressed we didn't feel safe. And they thought that was because of the public knowing about us having a man on our team. Not because we were playing or sharing our safe spaces with a man, but because people were gonna attack us or try and attack Blair, and we don't want that to happen. So we'll assign you a police officer to travel with you and to make sure y'all are safe outside of the court, where the whole time the only place we were unsafe was the spaces they were giving to us. We keep going into these meetings, and slowly people are starting to ask more and more questions, and they just keep telling you to stop talking. They cut you off, they don't want to hear what you have to say, and they just keep saying we're going to handle it. So that's when I decided a few weeks in that I was going to join the NCAA lawsuit with Riley Gaines to protect women and Title IX, which was built to protect women. And obviously, my lawyer calls me and he's like, hey, we have to give your papers to the judge now. Like, if we wait any longer, we're just going to make him mad. And if anyone who's dealt with any legal things with judges and all that, you're really not trying to make him mad when you're pushing things through. So I was like, you know what, okay, this is the day before our first in-season game, and we're in a hotel in Fresno. And so I asked my coaches to a meeting, and at this point I was naive. I was like, you know what, there was 18 other girls in this lawsuit already. The face of it is obviously Riley Gaines. Everyone knows who Riley Gaines is. And so I was like, you know what, my face is just gonna go on the webpage, and I'll have to go to court one day, and I'm gonna do my part. It was terrifying to join it because still, I thought there was still a possibility I could get my scholarship pulled at this point. But I just felt such conviction in a way of, I just know this isn't right, this has to change. And so I joined this lawsuit, and I sit down and tell my coaches, and really the only thing my head coach says is, I don't think you need to tell your team you're doing this. And I was like, no. I'm not going to do that because this isn't something I'm ashamed of or hiding. And if this does end up coming back to them, because my school is informed when I'm joining that obviously one of your players and athletes is suing the NCAA. So it's going to get back to someone. He didn't like that much, but I did it anyways. So the next day I sit down with my team and I tell them, hey, I've decided to do this. And, you know, you don't have to say anything. This is just something that I feel very strongly about. And it was just silent. No one said anything. And then we all go back to our hotel rooms after scout, and then everyone on my team texts me saying how much they're supporting me and they love that I'm doing this and that it's amazing that I'm doing this for them and for so many other women. And that's just another example. Even without, the coaches were not in the room when I told them this. But yet, just with being with our peers that were supposed to be our closest friends, they have manipulated us so much into thinking that we couldn't even trust our best friends anymore to talk about this. They individually text me, but yet when we're still all together, they can't say anything still. We would be at home and we wouldn't be bringing up anything going on with a man sitting in my kitchen cooking dinner. So more and more time goes on. That next morning, I wake up, boom, article about me joining the lawsuit. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, it's just one, that's fine. And then another one, and another one, and another one. And obviously some of them not supporting me, some of them are. And that's when things got more iffy at school. And I'm personally getting called into meetings with compliance and with therapists and with saying I'm a hateful person and I'm ruining Blair's life because of this. And Blair's just advocating for something he believes is right. He's doing things legally correctly, and that I'm gonna ruin this team. They told me that I needed to speak to therapists because I had something wrong with me. And over time, as I grew more and more knowledge, at first I was not talking about this at all. I joined the lawsuit, that was it, I moved on. And as time went on, I was broken. I mean, everyone around you, you can't speak to them. You can't tell them what you're thinking. Even though I am doing this lawsuit, I'm doing the right thing, I was still hiding. I was still terrified. And I just remember I'd stopped going to church for a while. And when I did when I was younger, it was in one ear out the other. I really didn't take anything that they were saying. And there was just one day I felt so alone, and I just looked up either non-denominational Baptist church, where's one near me? Let's just see what happens. And then I found a church called Redemption, and I was like, you know what, I had my speculation, I'm not gonna lie, of a California church, but I show up, and I was like, you know what, we'll just see how this goes. I just need something at this point. Like, I am so broken, I'm a shell of myself at this point, I just need something. And so I go to this church and I show up, and it's this pastor with a thick Southern accent who was born and raised in North Carolina. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's see how this goes. And I sit down and worship starts, and I just start sobbing. And there are members of this church that just start praying over me. They have no idea what I'm going through, what's going on, my name. And oh my gosh, that was the first time I probably truly felt the glory of God. And it was that day that I decided to give my life to Christ. Woo. And after that was when I genuinely saw a switch in the way of, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this fully. And people need to know what's going on here. Because just because I'm going through this, you see in social media, not even in collegiate level, there's little girls going through this. There's people going through this in local gyms in their locker rooms, or just trying to use a bathroom in a restaurant they're going to for dinner, and have no idea how to handle the situation or how to say anything. And so after that, that's when I truly started speaking out and trying to put into the public and show what was going on here, and try and show that this is so wrong. And my assistant coach at the school, Melissa Beatty-Smoose, was the only one on staff that decided to back me on that. And a little later on, she gets fired. And they tell us 5 minutes before a game against New Mexico at a home game, this guy from compliance comes and sits with us who we've never seen before, had no idea who he was. And in about 3 minutes, he tells us that the only woman that our entire team felt safe enough to go to and cry to and ask for a day off because they can't take going to the gym anymore, we got rid of her. Wow. And Melissa was breaking her contract by doing whatever and speaking up for her team and the majority and not the minority. We leave that in our jerseys already, warmed up, ready to go play. We'd already done pre-game warm-ups and everything. The team is out there waiting for us. And we just all start crying. And one of my teammates come up to me. She was only a sophomore. And all she said to me, she's looking at me crying in my face, and she's like, I don't feel safe anymore. Melissa was the only safe space we had, and they took her away. And even with me in that lawsuit, everyone was still terrified to do anything. There's all these forfeits that were going on. We ended up losing about, I think, 8 opportunities to play in our season. Which, props to those teams. It's amazing that they could do that. And I support them fully. I became friends with a lot of those girls on those teams. But they would just tell us in a brief little, our head coach would show up to practice one day and he'd be like, okay, we're not playing tomorrow against Wyoming. Blair never said anything. The one person that was causing all these issues sat there in silence. And I remember the first time that we got a forfeit, and we all just looked at Blair. We were like, okay, what's he gonna say now? Like, he knows he's the issue here. What's he gonna say? He hasn't addressed anything. He has not once said anything about anything that was going on. Nothing. We just walked out. 3 of us were like, I can't take it today. And I went home. I was like, I can't. Well, then, at one point, I go home from practice, and Blair moved out.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Yeah, that's how I felt. So I get home, and I don't know if y'all know about Snapchat, but you have private stories with friends. So I get home, and my 2 roommates and another girl on our team order crumble, and we put candles in it, and we're celebrating. Like, it's funny, it's hilarious. I was so happy, but like, so much weight was lifted off of us because this person that made us feel so unsafe and that we were having to walk on eggshells around all the time finally left. So, I was just being funny. I posted a little video on my friends only private story, and all I said was the man has moved out. And it's like a video of me and my friends just like playing music and eating cookies. Well, then the next day in practice, my head coach, someone had shown it to him, and my head coach goes up to Melissa, my other assistant, and was like, look what I got. I got her. Like, she's gone after this. She doesn't even know what's coming. I haven't even told her I know about it yet. And goes to my trainer, same thing. Just wait, I'm about to talk to her about this after practice. Like, she's gonna be so scared, I can't wait. Just laughing in people's faces. And so my trainer comes up to me and he's like, hey, I don't know what Todd's got on you, but apparently you're in big trouble. And then my assistant tells me he's got a video, whatever, of y'all eating cookies and playing music. And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, if he's gonna go around lollygagging about wanting to take this down on me, let's talk about this now. So I go and take him, and I'm like, hey, we can talk now if you want to. And he takes me in there, and he tells me, I'm confused on this video. And that was the first time I told him, like, what are you confused about? I don't get it. And he was like, I'm confused on the wording. You said, the man has moved out. What's that mean? Blair's a woman. What are you talking about? And I was like, no, Todd, Blair is a man. And he just sat there and like stared at me. Like, oh my gosh, she just said that. And we got into a back and forth argument about it for like 5 minutes. And I got it, it's so funny, I get to go back and listen to it on voice recording all the time, it's hilarious. But he was like, okay, well I just want to let you know I filed a case against you for Title IX. Because you're being discriminatory against Blair. You're not using Blair's right pronouns.
Oh my gosh.
And at this point, that was the 3rd Title IX case he's put into the office against me for the things that I was saying in public, saying he instead of she, or saying Blair's born name as a male was Braden. So time and time goes on, things just get crazier and crazier and crazier, and it just still baffles me today that there's this whole world of people that are forcing you to believe in their propaganda, and the fact that they're trying to force little kids that, oh, you're confused, this is the right way to go with your life, without even telling their parents. And there was 18 women at this school that their parents trusted this coaching staff in this school to give them that safe space and to protect them. I mean, these are still 18-year-old girls that have no idea how to live on their own. And there were so many times that I just wanted to get up and walk away and be like, you know what, volleyball's not worth it anymore. I'm done. I can't take this anymore. And I started praying and praying and praying about it, and like, God, why of all people would you put me here? All I wanted this entire time was to just find somewhere where I could enjoy myself and be done with it and have a happy, long gone career, tell the kids about it one day. And I realized all of these girls on our team are still terrified every single day and cannot say anything about it. They're still too scared. And I truly believe I was put there to go through this because he knew that I could handle it and that I could be there to protect them, because their parents couldn't be there to protect them at this time. And I still get texts and calls from them saying, I don't know what I would have done without you there. And I ended up having to finish school online and move back to Texas after that last semester, that fall. Because I genuinely feel like, in the best way possible, I gave myself to other people for so long, trying to protect what this organization decided not to. And I just had to be able to go home and recover. But this is happening everywhere. That's what people have to realize. Like, this isn't me up here just telling horror stories and war stories and all of that. This is happening with elementary school kids. I met a girl, I was on a travel trip in San Diego, and I got to have dinner with her and her mom. And she's on a softball team. She was 9 years old. And she came to me because I saw her story, because she was terrified the next day she was going to have to bat in softball against a man on the other softball team. And she didn't know what to do. This is happening everywhere. In sports, yes, it's unfair, it's unsafe. There was always athletic capabilities that I saw in Blair from day one that I told my parents about that I could never achieve. But it's also happening in schools, just in your classrooms that you're sending your kids to every day, where they just want to go to the bathroom safely, and then there's a man next to them or a little boy next to them believing that he's a little girl because these teachers are telling them so. It's not until we make the change at the high ups and truly show that the majority do not believe that this is right, that anything is truly going to be able to happen. And that's why, at the end of the day, I had to join these lawsuits. Because I know if I sat up there one day watching my kids play sports and I had a little girl and she was playing against a man, I could not have lived with myself. I don't know how my parents could have handled it. But we have to be able to stand up and make a change. They can't do anything to you if you do say what you believe. And that's something that they're trying to force you to think can't happen. They want to try and threaten you and do all these things against you to make you believe that everything in your life is going to go wrong if you start speaking up against these things. And that's just not true. So honestly, it was one of the worst times of my life that I ever had to go through. But honestly, to this day, I could not feel more blessed with the opportunities I've been given to try and protect those little girls that are going to come up and have that dream that I did and not have it ruined.
Yeah.